So a few days ago, I made a video showing you guys 10 hidden features in Fallout 76. And not all of these were totally hidden, many of them were just not that obvious. A lot of users didn't know about their existence, and well, a lot of you guys like that. If you missed the first episode, there's not going to be any overlap between the two. I will have it linked at the end of this video or in the description if you guys want to check it out after this one. But now I am back pretty much doing the same thing. And to be clear, some of you guys will know about some of these. Some of the things on this list, the game does technically tell you, but people just seem to have missed it. I'm seeing a lot of confusion around these certain points, and then certain other ones, the game literally never says it's a thing and you only find out by doing, or you don't do it and never find out until you watch this video. As I mentioned in a few videos now, I'm pretty close to 350,000 subscribers. Once we hit that, I'm going to do a cooking video with the Fallout cookbook. So if you want to subscribe, hey, that'd be fun, right? So one of the first items on this list actually led me to an even larger revelation. In Fallout 76, there is an option to bulk your scrap, but a lot of people have been posting online about how that isn't worth it. It isn't actually saving you any carry weight except for a few select items. And that seems like it was true up until all of yesterday. So obviously we haven't gotten a patch for Fallout 76, but it seems like Bethesda may have actually updated these values in the past 24 to 48 hours. Because now, as you go into Fallout 76 and bulk some of your scrap, it actually is saving you weight. Take for example raw wood scrap. If you do have the raw 30 wood scrap, it does weigh 0.03 each, that totaling 0.9 in weight, but if you actually bulk it, it now will weigh 0.75, where in the past I think it was actually weighing 1.5. So basically the bulking system in Fallout 76 now works in a way that is intuitive and how you probably think it would work anyway. But outside of that, another one I truly had no idea about, you can fast travel from inside now. All of the other restrictions still exist, like you can't be inside and over encumbered or have enemies nearby, but if you're just inside a building and it's totally cleared out, you can fast travel somewhere else. I literally learned that just today while trying to film this video. It's a pretty massive change, especially when you're actually inside of maybe a little bit more of a complex building, but let's say you actually complete clearing it out, you can fast travel to it, and it's a super quick way to just get placed right outside the front door. Repairing items, whether it be weapons or armor, is a pretty big part of this game, and something that is very useful to know that I was actually pretty unsure about. There's no cost difference in repairing an item that is at, let's say, 1 condition or 100 condition. So it doesn't matter how damaged the item is, the repair cost will always be the same. This is really important to keep in mind to save that valuable aluminium. By the way, speaking of weapon crafting or scrapping, there actually is another kind of oddity here. As many of you guys probably know, to get new weapon mods in Fallout 76, you have to scrap existing weapons. But it seems like there's some kind of cap or limit on this. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but there's one in the game. After a certain amount of time, scrapping various weapons will stop unlocking weapon mods for that gun. But there might still be weapon mods that you haven't found yet. So some people are speculating that it actually is a perk requirement. So if you don't have a certain level of like the crafting perk for that particular type of weapon, it'll cap you as to how many weapon mods you can find, and then after you get it, you could scrap more and find more weapon mods. Other people are saying that it's just a hard lock, that let's say there's only 20 weapon mods you could actually discover this way, and otherwise you have to actually find the plans for this weapon or buy the weapon modification itself from a trader. I honestly don't know, but if you're trying to farm a bunch of weapons, just know that there is a limit as to how much you can discover from them. Another pretty interesting point that the game does tell you about, but only the first time, so a lot of people may not realize it. When sleeping or using an instrument, after using it for a certain amount of time, you actually get a certain bonus. For instruments, it's going to give you plus 25 AP for 1 hour, and sleeping is going to give you plus 5% experience for 1 hour, which if you do a lot of quests during that hour can be really valuable. It doesn't really take that long to get these bonuses, and obviously they're quite considerable. There's actually this really useful hut right next to Vault 76 that has a bed and has an instrument. It's a good way to get these bonuses right off the bat with no cost of fast traveling. So this one, it seems like a ton of people are not realizing, but basically if you took one of those perks that gives you like bonus ammo when searching for something, or bonus chems, or bonus food, whatever it may be, that perk only works if you hit the spacebar on a container that has that option available. So if it's food, you often have to hit spacebar while looting somebody's body, and if it's actually ammo, you have to hit it on an ammo container, maybe a duffel bag, something like that. But speaking of perk cards, another one that's fairly useful to know, the weight saving perk card, so like reducing the weight of chems or reducing the weight of your junk, only applies to your character, not to your stash. So what this means is, especially if you have some of the higher end ones, it might make more sense for you actually to hold some of these items in your inventory and not store them in your stash. So if you have some of those 90% reduction cards, it will be a lot heavier in your stash than just carrying it around on your person. Even beyond that, another oddity here, the chem card for this doesn't actually affect a few chems for some reason. So antibiotics, disease cure, and RadAway are not affected by this one. This seemingly could be an oversight or a glitch of some kind, maybe something that gets fixed in the future. But even though hoarding a bunch of stim packs with this is quite lucrative because their weight is so low, hoarding a bunch of RadAway can become quite heavy because it still does have its typical weight. All throughout the game, you're going to be able to find these maps that have dots in them. I keep seeing players not realizing if you actually click on the dot, it'll give you a map marker to go to that location. It's typically just one of the faded out map markers. You can't actually fast travel to it until you discover it, but it makes exploration a lot easier, especially considering a lot of these locations are used for a quest later on. If you notice suddenly while playing the game that for some reason you can't hear any other players, there's actually probably a reason for that. Basically, in Fallout 76, your voice mode is set to auto by default. So if you're running around alone, you'll hear ambiently all the other people around you. It's basically setting it to the area setting. But when you join a team, it'll typically set you to the team setting automatically. That meaning that you could only hear people in your team and not those just running around you. You could change this in the settings, but I've noticed a lot of people complaining that the voice chat broke or something along those lines, while in reality, it's just the game automatically changing things. Banking level ups is not a viable strategy in this game. So in the last video, I went over how certain perk cards are unlocked at certain levels. So like level 30 is the perk card for Starch Jeans. You can't save your level 29 perk point to be used at level 30. Each perk point does have its level associated with it. So the perk card you got at level 29, let's say you somehow save it and don't choose to level up until you hit level 35, having 6 points now, each of those points will count for their individual level. So the level 29 point will give you access to level 29 perks, even if that's not your present level. I've seen some people trying to bank these and finding out, probably pretty unhappy, that there's no payoff to doing so. And just as kind of a bonus tip that isn't actually in-game, you may have found that trading in Fallout 76 is fairly frustrating. Maybe you have a bunch of good items, but you don't really have an outlet to get rid of them. There's actually a subreddit that allows you to do this. It's called Market 76, and it's geared towards trading in the game. There's actually a ton of good options and opportunities out there. People selling really good items for fairly cheap. It's a good way to get some legendary items that maybe somebody else is too low level for or just doesn't want. I haven't seen too many people talk about it. Basically, they're not allowed to advertise in the regular Fallout subreddits for various reasons. There was like a conflict between the moderators, so I figure I'll shout it out in my videos. I haven't used it yet, but I definitely plan on using it in the future as I continue to struggle to find a good legendary weapon. But either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the tips part of this video. If you feel like I should have mentioned something and didn't, let me know in the comments down below. I'll heart it or pin it so other people can still get that advice. There's a lot of features in this game that for whatever reason seem to fly really under the radar. I think this is partly due to the fact that a bunch of stuff was seemingly changed. Like Fallout 4 had those perks where you would find more ammo, but you didn't have to do it in this unique way of searching the containers. It would just pop up naturally. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the Fallout side of this video, but before we end things off, I do want to share today's psychology fun fact of the day. I'm presently studying for a social psych class, which is always fun right when a game comes out, like the biggest game of the past few years for my channel. But either way, this fun fact's going to be on the Bystander Effect. You probably heard of this thing. It's a fairly well-known phenomenon, and more or less it means that as group size increases, the likelihood of somebody getting help goes down. That doesn't intuitively make sense. You would kind of assume that as the group size increases, there'd be more people to help, so that it's more likely you'd get help if you're hurt. But that's not the case. And even though there's a lot of people that know what the Bystander Effect is, I bet there's not a lot of people that actually know why it occurs and the factors that kind of contribute to its presence. So one big one is actually pluralistic ignorance. This is just a general societal effect, but more or less it's the idea that let's say you see somebody that looks like they're hurt on the side of the road, but you also see that nobody's currently helping him. So most people in that scenario would assume that, oh, they must all know something that I don't know. There's a reason nobody's helping him. Even though I'm really worried and stressed out about what's happening, everyone else is probably okay, so that means things are okay. In reality, studies have found that most people are thinking the exact same thing, that hey, everyone else probably knows something I don't know, and that's why nobody's helping. There's actually a study done that tested this where they had a person in a room taking a test and then two Confederates also taking a test. Confederates in psychology experiments are basically people that are working with the experimenter, so they're not just random subjects, but they appear to be random subjects to the actual random subject. So seemingly 3 people in a room taking a test, there's smoke coming in under the door. Oh no, there's probably a fire. Well, what they found was when they actually had those two Confederates not respond at all to that, people also wouldn't respond to that. And apparently on some of these studies, it got to the point where the smoke was so thick that it was difficult to see the test they were taking. So the subject allowed the room to fill up with smoke and didn't react because they assumed that the two other people in the room must have known what was going on or why there was actually smoke, and they weren't freaking out, so there's no reason for me to freak out, while in reality, the building might have been burning down. So another one is actually audience inhibition. This is the idea that one person is scared to act in front of an audience in fear of doing something wrong. Like let's say you see somebody who has an injury, you're scared of trying to fix that injury or help that person, that you might actually hurt him more or cause more damage to him while in front of a crowd. Studies have shown when people are alone, they're much more likely to actually help others and perform some kind of medical treatment because they don't have that factor of all these eyes on them as they do it. So that's all good to know, but let's say you are actually in a situation where you're seeing the bystander effect. Maybe you fell off your bike or something and you need help and nobody's helping you. What do you do? So based on these theories, basically the best course of action is to just single somebody out and make explicit requests. Like, hey, you in the blue shirt, please help me, I'm hurt. Being very specific with your request is what gets people to react. Just making broad statements like help, I'm hurt doesn't make any individual person feel personally responsible, and in turn, action is much less likely to occur. So yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. But with that, I hope to see you guys all next time. Later.
Ich sterbe! Helft mir!